Tell us about the brain. Tell us about the real story behind multitasking.
You know, multitasking is one of these topics that constantly comes up to me about what is it, why do we do it, do we have to do it? And now that there's brain science to talk about this, it's a perfect topic for us because we are faced with this every day. This is what we do every day. So what is it? Multitasking essentially is doing tasks at the same time, multiple different tasks at the same time, and we continue to do this throughout our day. When we finish work, we go home and we do the same thing at home. Now, one of the intuitive questions is it good or bad for you to do it?
Right.
And it's a hard question to answer because we have to do it. And as a physician, I would say moderation. If it's done in moderation, it works well. If it's done to the extreme, it doesn't. And unfortunately with this topic, it seems to be an extreme topic. Either we're doing it well or we're not doing it at all. So that is an interest to me. What happens when we don't do it well? What happens in the brain when it's not working? And this is where the science has really kicked up. In the last, I'm going to say 15 years, we're really beginning to understand this.
And what are some examples of what you've seen when it works well? What is the brain, what's actually happening?
Okay. What happens in the brain when we multitask is essentially we're activating certain areas of the brain. And one area that's key for everyone to remember is the frontal lobe. I'll be talking more about it when we meet, but it is a very important area of the brain. It's the CEO of the brain, if you will. Think of it that way. It helps you execute a plan a calendar, make a meal, do various tasks. And when the frontal lobe is activated optimally, it's fabulous. You get on with your tasks, you feel good, you mark things off to-do lists. The problem comes when the frontal lobe is overactivated, if you will, and it gets then in a position where it can shut down, or in my case, where I see my patients and friends and clients, they get in lockdown mode. So the frontal lobe is the first key point to remember in multitasking. Now the second thing that we'll talk more at the forum has to do with men and women. Because women, we hear all the time, we do it better than men, or women are better at multitaskers than men. And I've often wondered, where did that come from? Why is that? And is there really a basis between a man and a woman in multitasking? And it's a complicated question, but what I've noticed is that women, because of varied roles that they assume, they have learned to do certain programs repeatedly, over and over. And when they then get those programs down, they then are able to multitask similar programs throughout their jobs, their lives as wives, mothers. And so therefore they have more experience in some ways in doing this. And the interesting thing is that when multitasking gets taken to the extreme, there's a thing called stress that I'm really going to focus on, and I just say it and both of you start laughing, because multitasking can be related to stress. They aren't separate entities, and you have to really talk about stress to understand what's happening.